Very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Jeffrey Ozama.
And I'm Kayode Okikulu. We're live for you in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. For those who are still keeping count, or at least taking note of the days, it's 22 days into January already. That means 8 days to go.
Well, just keep counting. 2025 is here, and the numbers are running quite quickly, as fast as it should.
Yeah.
All you have to do is to do catch up as much as you can. Do the best you can. Take the days as they come. Take the week as they come. But the best way for me, at the end of the day, is just to set goals and set targets and try to meet them up, and then develop what I learned from somebody. Have some form of a regiment, Just have time for certain things. It works better. And the truth is that you may not be able to meet all of the times. So sometimes you say, I want to do this at this particular time every day, or 3 times a week, or 4 times a week. Don't get discouraged if you miss one. Just cascade it into the next one and just go ahead.
So you have 4 bags. One bag you put in rest. I think for you, rest takes a huge chunk.
Yeah.
Then the other bag you put in work.
There's a lot of work. Work takes a lot of chunk because you're working both at.
So work is always competing with rest.
Yes, work is. You work in the office. You also work at home because you're watching, you're reading, you're researching.
You work in your sleep too.
No, you don't do that.
Oh, come on. The time you just you run through the show. You
try to avoid it, but so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, there's work in the second bag and third bag.
Just have time with your family.
Right.
Quite important, because at the end of the day, it's about family, which is how I think every government, if you see the United States, for instance, they always, whether they're doing it for real or they're doing it for cosmetic reasons or for the optics, I do not know. But at the end of the day, they centralize vision around family. So you see the president always coming out with his family and all of that. So whatever it is doing at the macroeconomic level in Nigeria, it trickles down to family. So you as a person must take family very seriously. So if you do work, if you do rest, if you do, what do you call it now? Family and do. So someone says, every day you wake up, make sure you do things that keep you healthy, something that brings money into your pocket, things that just expand the quality of your mind. I think one of that stuff like that.
So the fourth bag will have self-development, whether it's spiritual, mind development, physical, education. Put it in that 4th bag, and then you have, I think, a good array. And you mentioned the President of America and his family. So what we had was people in Nigeria putting Nigeria's president and his son as well, saying, so why aren't you...
President has children. It's only shade that a lot of people know.
Why aren't you criticizing Donald Trump for always having his son behind him, either Baron? Why criticize President Tinubu for always having Shea around him? So at that point, the debate just went all out. But that's not what we're talking about on the show this morning. Jeffrey, do you have your 2 cupboards, that particular conversation?
Which of them? So
they showed Trump with Barron, always around him. And then they also showed President Tinubu with his son, Shea, always around him. Why aren't you criticizing Trump? Why do you always criticize President Tinubu and his son, or Shea in this case?
I think perhaps people are criticizing because of the complexity of the Nigerian state. Things are not as complex as they are. So, for instance, you go to America. When I was hearing him introduce other presidents or former presidents, I said President Bush, President Obama. Just simple. You can't do that here. You have to call the full name, GCFR, GCON. So there are cultural differences and nuances when it comes to these things as well. But as long as the president's son, whether, for instance, Nigeria, nobody voted for him, if they want to give him an appointment, if they give him an appointment, of course, there will be uproar. As long as he's not doing things that people that are appointed are supposed to do. Whatever, I don't know what Shea does. All I know is that he's a businessman. But any other thing he's doing around his father as president of Nigeria, I have no idea. So I know nothing. I can't really comment on. I just know he's a businessman. So does she have an official role? No, he doesn't have any official role in government. But he's always with his father, perhaps for personal reason and all of that. So if he doesn't get in the way of administration, fine. So people raise the flag of, oh, he came, he welcomed dignitaries and all of the, what do you call, diplomats and all of that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's neither here nor there.
There you go. I know it's a major debate, Jeffrey. We just thought to bring that up for our viewers, but maybe we just get right into what we have on the show
Absolutely.
this
So
morning.
we're going to be looking at a couple of things. One of the very first things we'll be looking at today is of course, we're going to review the papers to find out what the headlines are saying. But beyond that, we'll talk about the ceasefire in Gaza. You know, after this newspaper review, we'll get straight to the ceasefire. Sorry, not the ceasefire. Yes, that's correct. Get to that ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. So people contextualize this. It's Hamas,
Not
Israel
Palestine.
and Hamas, not Palestine. You know, there's the occupied West Bank and there's the Gaza Strip occupied by Hamas. And so there are three phases. The release of prisoners and hostages, that is ongoing. Then the second phase has to do with ending this war as quickly as possible. But that future may not include Hamas and Hezbollah in Lebanon. And then the reconstruction that will take billions and years to execute. We'll be talking with the ambassador right here on the program.
And where Palestine comes in is a lot of people affected are Palestinians.
Exactly.
Right, so that's where you can bring in Palestine, but this is basically Israel and Hamas. We'll also be, of course, talking about developments here in Nigeria, and we're talking about out-of-school children yet again. You can't talk too much about this one because this is the future. No more the future, this is the today of Nigeria, and the focus is on Yobe State, as well as looking at the root causes and possible solutions to this menace.
All right, we're also going to chat with Sylvester Aguddah to highlight his journey as a contemporary artist. I love art. I think my wife loves it more anyway, because my mouth they call for these things. Used to shake my chest. All right, so we're going to talk to the artists today and what they do.
Absolutely. And finally, you know, Wednesday's sort of like a dip.
Yeah.
So there's Monday, a lot of energy. Tuesday, a lot of energy, but Wednesday you sort of dip, right? So we're going to be giving you some sort of energy. We have another artist, this time one whose medium is the drums. Emmadrumz joins us to talk and entertain us. Is performed with Wizkid, the big names in the industry. So you don't want to miss the energy, Jeffrey, on the show this morning.
Absolutely. Funny story. I started off learning how to play the drum, but I didn't last. Yes. I never.
So you're going to try your hands on the drums today.
I couldn't. No, I mean the full set of drum, not the type.
No, it's basically the same concept. So it's the same thing.
I started out learning how to drum, but I didn't stay too long on that. I wanted to learn the keyboard, but no, the drum. But later I was falling in love with the guitar and the keyboard because it's less noisy. The drums are all over the place.
So you have been with a band right now doing your thing.
I did the choir work for a long time, so I've been around. I'm retired now.
You're not retired. You're going to try your hands on the drums on the show this morning, but you could be a part of the morning brief. Head over to WhatsApp right now. Let us know if you want to see Jeffrey try his hands on the drums, but also let's know what you think about the major talking points. The calypso, the high life, the funk, and the rest. So head over to WhatsApp. You'll see the WhatsApp number on your screen any moment. We're big on WhatsApp. You can be a part of it. You can just do the hashtag CTV Morning Brief. There you have it, the WhatsApp number.
All right, so messages and videos only. If you have anything going on, if the fuel price in your area is higher than you expect it to be, let's know. Whatever it is that is of concern to you, if you're happy or angry with the leadership of our country, we want to know. It's your country. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria. So, at the end of the day, I was before I get to the papers, I think I was listening to somebody say, was it a politician? Somebody. I know the person did not process what he said because it's unconstitutional. I said, the president is the president that is our sovereign. The president of Nigeria can never, has never, will never be our sovereign. This is not England. Section 14 says...
Exactly. So maybe people need to understand what sovereign means.
Yes, the sovereign means more like king, monarchy. Now, for have England, the king of England now, King Charles.
Supreme power.
Is supreme power. He's the sovereign. Here we don't have... Let me tell you who the sovereign are, you and I. The people. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria. Section 14 of the Constitution. The president is not is our servant. So let's be clear on that. All right. Papers now.
Absolutely. So something to chew on, something to always think about when you approach issues like this. I'm actually powerful, right? The office of the citizen actually really exists. But let's get right into the dailies which we have for you on the show. We're starting off with the Nigerian Tribune. Yeah, let's get off with the Nigerian Tribune, and it leads with something interesting that played out yesterday. Just in case you didn't know, the president is back in the country. He came back 2 days ago. You may have missed that because Donald Trump was being sworn in and you were focusing on another people's president. Anyway, you see, Tinubu to Ogoni leaders forget historical grievances, reconcile, directs NSA to coordinate negotiations, asks ministers, NNPC Limited, Rivers government to cooperate with NSA. I know you wanted to see, or you probably want to see another explainer in this that talks about the political situation in Rivers State, because of course we had the governor of Rivers State and the FCT minister at that meeting yesterday. But sorry to disappoint you, at least from the front pages.
Spoilers alert.
There's no such. But you don't know. Pictures, you don't know. Some of these things may have happened, but it's a very important region. I mean, to Nigeria, not just the natural resources, but the human capital as well. I think that's something we don't talk about. We focus on just what's beneath the ground and not what's above the ground that impacts how we utilize what is beneath the ground. So you can understand why the president is having that meeting. But more importantly is how well with the resolutions from that meeting hold. Jeffrey,
I think it's quite important. That's Ogoni leads. That's a road that leads to my mother's village. I grew up in the States, so I understand what exactly is going on here. For many years, exploration, exploitation has taken place, total destruction of those areas. And of course, you know what happened with Cancer, where I can't go back. So perhaps the president is saying, look, these things have happened. We need to move forward as a people. So if there's exploration, exploitation that has to take place, there are certain terms that must be agreed to. So that's why the NSA is involved. Because at the end of the day, Nigeria wants to ramp up production. And there's a lot of resources trapped beneath Ogoni land. But they can't just walk in and do the same things they were doing. Everybody has to be held accountable, and everybody has to be responsible. So perhaps the president is bringing out the Ogoni leaders, the River State government, and the leaders of the state to see how all the dots, all the T's can be crossed, you know, and everything has to be done right at this time, so that we don't get back to where we're coming from. I think it's quite an important assertion he made, that we must reconcile, we must move forward, we must put our grievances aside, because there are the blame games even among the Ogonis as to what led to who killed who is responsible for what. But all of that, we hope it can be resolved, so that the treasure that is beneath the soil and the people themselves, as Kayode has said, will just heave a sigh of relief and enjoy the benefit of God's blessings beneath the earth.
It's not a crime really to have such wealth beneath the ground. It's not a crime, but so far it looks like it's a crime. But two stories that we don't want you to miss on the front page. One is just related to this meeting, and it's at the bottom right corner of the paper. You see vandals behind Buguma wellhead fire. We reported that with our correspondent in that state. So this is from the NNPC Limited.
This is the NNPCL's version.
Yeah, version of it. Say it's vandals. I know the military had also said we didn't blow this up, so it's not us. So who are the vandals? Have we apprehended them? Big questions. But then at the
just to add to that, before we go to that, so the community had said it's the workers or so that came to resolve something that had happened and it exploded. Some community are saying that the military had raided the area to chase these vandals and something went wrong. So you really don't know who to believe. The NNPCL has a story, the military have their story, the community themselves have their story, and perhaps the vandals have their own story. So I don't know who to believe on this one.
It's usually tough to.
Yes.
But just quickly, there's a talk about the census, and I think we need to mention it because it's something we keep forgetting. It's been how many years now, Jeffrey? Nearing 20 years.
I think it was
2006.
2006.
So nearing 20 years now, we conducted our last census. So Senate insists on census this year, decries lack of exercise in 19 years.
Maybe we'll go to New Telegraph. That's a very big headline there on the New Telegraph. Census must hold this year, Senate tells FG. I think I totally agree. It's almost very painful to realize that sometimes as a people, as a government, we can't do just one thing right. One thing right, like as simple as how many are we is a contentious issue. Well, I know because there's politics undertone and all of these things, but let's just get an average. How many really and Nigerians. And this is my proposition. In this census we want to do, let's not do it the way I grew up knowing about census. Let's do it the election type. Let's use what's that called? BVAS.
Biometrics.
Let's use biometrics. Look, if we use biometrics, you will now realize that Nigeria will not even be up to 200 million. It will shock you. Because now the cows cannot biometric, the goats cannot biometric, we will not do all of those things because these things happen during census. So I think that we need to incorporate, because we're collecting data. The Minister of Information, the Minister of Communication, all of these gentlemen who are trying to do their bit so, aggregate data. This is an opportunity for us to aggregate that data. Let's use BVAS or whatever is close to BVAS to do census. So we know actually how many we are, because census is political.
Yeah.
Because
data in general can be very political.
People want to collect more money from the federation allocation. We call it federal allocation. Yeah, that's the point.
Part of the VAT.
Yeah, VAT. There's population out of it.
Pack it in.
So, and of course, the number of seats and all of that. So, census is very political. So, the only way to botch the politics in census is technology. So, on this one, I agree with the Senate. Enough is enough. Let's know how many we are as a country. I think it's only fair to ask.
Nah, it is. But while we chew on that, we'll definitely not let this out of our sight, because that's what usually happens. The former administration tried it, then they said we'll do it next year. And they said, okay, we're not doing it. Let's see if the next government will do it. And then we're 3 years after still haven't done it. But let's turn our attention to this Nigeria. This Nigeria is talking about health this morning. And that's yet another thing that is very vital to the survival of any nation. But see this headline: are hospitals at risk over endless brain drain? Chief medical directors raise the alarm, want FG to stop further drift, improve remuneration of health workers. I know the minister, Professor Ali Pate, had come up with some sort of policy last year that was meant to address this, but you see endless there, Jeffrey, endless. It's still ongoing, it continues till tomorrow, and you wonder when will we reach the breaking point, or we've reached the breaking point already and we're just trying to survive with it. But that's a big story.
I just think we've said enough about this brain drain. I just feel that the minister should do his bit. There's nothing wrong with people traveling, but when they travel in droves, that's when we have a problem. We can't continue to lose our best minds. I understand that when you go to some countries around the world, some of the best minds in terms of their medical sciences are Nigerians. So something is critically wrong with how we manage our talent.
We had a conversation with the former Australian ambassador yesterday. He said that you have some of the best doctors in Australia and Nigerians.
Yes.
100 plus of them, not junior doctors.
Senior doctors, elderly doctors.
In Australia.
Yes. So he served in Australia, he served in Tel Aviv in Israel, and he told us emphatically 100 senior doctors. I think enough has been said. We just need to do something quickly. Remuneration, better welfare, better hospitals, better equipment, so we can do these things better. So maybe we'll go to
you see the top corner of this Nigeria about the withdrawal of the United States from the Paris Agreement. WHO, it probably didn't hit for a lot of people, because, by the way, the US, last I checked, is responsible for about 16% of
they were the biggest donor
you get, and they're only followed by, I think, either Germany or the Bill and Melinda Gates
has now taken over that position.
So you can
so
imagine
we're
what
moved
that
from
mean.
government being the biggest donor to corporate.
Is it corporate or
private? Corporate, yeah. Somebody that's driving it anyway.
So it's the UN regrets US exit from global cooperation on health and climate change pacts. It's what it is.
Yeah, so Donald Trump is not playing. It's America first. But we must be concerned about the WHO element of it, especially because if your biggest donor leaves the table, money has left that table. And that's quite dangerous for that level of isolation. I know Donald Trump in his posturing is protectionist. So for whatever reason, he has decided that WHO, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Sometimes it feels that America is losing more by just spreading money and throwing money all around. Whether his decision is short-sighted or he's doing it for the good of his people, time will tell. But all of us who are the rest of the world now have to brace up for a world without America when it comes to some of these things. Like WHO, like the Paris deal that I knew from the beginning, because we asked Ayola that day, everybody has to prepare without Trump, because if you ask them to do what, to be donating that kind of amount and scale down on industrialization is something that Trump will not want to listen to. That's why we Africans are also making a case. Since we bear the brunt and you want us to transition and not even get to where you got to, then we're putting down money on the table. We're asking for over $1 trillion every year. I say every month, I say every year now, I think about every year. And they did say they will do 300 billion.
Just hundreds of it.
About hundreds or so. So the world without America without WHO is a big deal. So everybody just has to brace up. So funding now has to be in the hands of bigger other donors like
so it's
Bill
actually
and Melinda
Germany,
Gates.
then Bill and Melinda Gates. So America, Germany, Bill and
We're
Melinda
even thinking
Gates.
that China was sneaking somewhere.
China's like 12th or something.
No, they may have to. China, they don't make noise.
Right.
They're not noise makers.
They may step it up.
They'll just wake up one day and step it up, and you'll be shocked. So
I like that faith.
So the way the world works, geopolitics works, who controls the purse has a lot of power in controlling a lot of things, including outcome of investigations.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go to the politics of it.
But you get it. But what we're going to do for you this morning is take you to the streets right now and give you a sense of what the dailies are saying as well. This newspaper stands across the country. We have Kelly Aguddah, our correspondent, is live in the Ikeja area of Lagos. This is Newspaper Review on the Streets. Kelly, where are you and what's going on there?
Kayode, Jeff, Lagosians, Nigerians, good morning. Our exact location is the very popular Ikeja under bridge. If you're familiar with Lagos, you know that this is a very, very busy point. It's not a residential area, so to say, but it's a business district. And that's because, number one, Computer Village is just to my right here. The very popular Computer Village where a lot of transactions go on, phones and computers and all of that. But also it's also a connecting point. Somewhere here takes you to the airport, and then to my back here takes you to areas, densely populated areas such as Akilo and Ogba, and of course Awolowo Road is so that stretch, Allen Avenue, Okwebi, and all of that. So it's a busy stretch. You can see the buses here. Lagosians are already out, up and about, ready to make a living or earn a living for today. And some people would argue that Tuesdays or Wednesdays are the most productive days. I don't know what side of the divide both of you belong to. But guys, if you want to see Nigerians who are very patriotic, one of the places to find them is the newspaper stands every morning. And we have them here, despite their busy schedules, on their way to their work and businesses. Some have had to always make out time to read the papers, see the headlines for the day, and before they take their leave to their places of work. So it's really a busy atmosphere here. But let's see if we can just do one or two newspapers before we speak to one or two persons as well. Check out the Vanguard this morning. Politicians disagree on why opposition is crumbling. That's the major headline there this morning. Underneath that, we have NLC blames Power Ministry, NURC for unending great collapses. Those are the major stories on the Vanguard this morning, as we can see. Let's see if we can take in one or two more. I see the Tribune here as well. Yes. Tinubu to Ogoni leaders: forget historical grievances, reconcile. Of course, talking about that all-important meeting yesterday between Mr. President, the Governor of Rivers State, the FCT ministers, and of course leaders from the region, the Ogoni leaders as well. So those are like the major headlines we can grab this morning. Something on health. Let's see the Daily Trust. Something on health. The Daily Trust has something really very interesting. If we can get that quickly. Yes, it says Japa, our hospitals will be empty in 2 years. The CMD says our hospitals will be empty in 2 years. NMA judges military more favored. 16,000 doctors left Nigerians in 5 years. Really, really very disturbing concerns for Nigerians. Those are the major talking points right here this morning. Lagosians out here this morning to express their views. Let's see if we can get in one or two comments. Good morning, sir. Can you speak to us very quickly about the headlines this morning? Which particular headline are you reading? He doesn't seem interested. All right, so guys, back to you.
Well, there you have it. Our correspondent Kelly Giga. You can tell Lagos has so much energy. You can feel that energy right here. It's really energizing. But thank you, Kelly. I can hear the usual back and forth. I don't know if it's someone trying to haggle or fight someone at the bus stop. But please stay safe, Jeffrey. Rather, Kelly reporting from the Ikeja area of Lagos. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Absolutely. That area is quite busy. But I think that, for me, I think if you say, where's the center of Lagos, what would you call? Center of Lagos.
Center of Lagos.
By my own estimation, I have somewhere in mind. Where is your own center of Lagos?
Naturally, you would say Ikeja.
I would say Oshodi. The reason I would say Oshodi. So if you stand in Oshodi, you're going, okay, I don't know where I'm standing right now. One direction is taking you to Mile Zoo, all the way to Alaba and that stretch. One direction is taking you to Mushin area, it can take you out to the Korodu Road, to Nikma, down to Yawa area.
So it's more arterial, so you can go.
And then one direction is taking you to Ikeja and all those arterial area in Ikeja area. Then one direction is taking you to Bagada area down to the third mainland bridge. So in my head, the center of Lagos is Oshodi, right? Yeah. So for me, that's my center of Lagos. I don't know where your center of Lagos is, but whatever it is.
I think it's wherever you stay at this point, or where you make a living.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to that very first conversation for the day. That has to do with the peace deal, the ceasefire at the Gaza Strip. We're talking with the ambassador of Israel. And of course, we're also going to talk about Nigeria-Israel relations. Join us again.
We're starting with one of the biggest conversations on the global scene now, and it's been like that for about 15 months. The Gaza situation, which culminated to the peace deal between Israel and Hamas in its third day now since Sunday, so it depends on how you're counting. And also, Nigeria has some sort of relationship with the parties as well. So we're going to be x-raying these issues, the global angle and of course the local angle as well. We're joined by the Ambassador of Embassy of Israel in Nigeria, His Excellency Michael Freeman. He's live for us from our Abuja studio. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief, Your Excellency.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me.
I'll just get right into it. How is the peace deal holding? 3 days now, a 15-month conflict culminated into this. We've seen lots of deaths, but I think the glimmer of hope has been this peace deal, which has been a long time coming. So how well or otherwise is it holding so far?
Look, you're right, it's a glimmer of hope. We have just started a ceasefire deal. It's not a full peace agreement, and I think that's important for your viewers to understand. This is a ceasefire agreement. It is stage one of a 3-stage ceasefire agreement. And in this first stage, the Israeli troops have pulled back to certain places, but most importantly, Israel will be receiving 33 of the 98 hostages that were remaining within Gaza. 3 of those we saw released on Sunday. 3 young women, 3 amazing, strong women who were released by Hamas, Romy and Emily and Doron, who the 3 of them were released. And we still have a further 94 that are being held by Hamas. And the aim of this deal is to get them back. And after we have those back, we will talk about stages 2 and 3 and returning the rest of our hostages.
That's cheery to hear. There were reports of bodies found on day 2. There were reports of attacks as well, just before Sunday, when it was meant to take a hold. So for some people, they're just watching with bated breath and hoping that this will really hold. But the newly sworn-in president of the United States, 47th President Donald Trump, made a statement about this ceasefire. And this is what he said. He said that, well, he's not confident that the Gaza ceasefire will hold. In fact, in his words, and I'll just take an excerpt from what he said, he said, that's not our war, it's their war, but I'm not confident. But he also spoke about, how Hamas has been weakened, how the place looks like a demolition zone. So hearing the president of the U.S., biggest ally of Israel, saying he's not confident, what do you have to say to that?
I understand President Trump's comments. President Trump is somebody who has been very involved in this deal. He's helped us push it over the line. He's helped push Hamas into this deal. But Hamas are a radical terror organization. And when President Trump says he's not confident that it will move forward, that is because we're not confident that Hamas will stick by this agreement. Hamas has breached every other agreement. Remember, this whole war started on October the 7th, when Hamas came across the border with thousands of fighters, with thousands of terrorists, and they murdered Israelis, they raped Israelis, they tortured Israelis, and they kidnapped over 250. They murdered over 1,200 Israeli men, women, and children, and kidnapped 250 men, women, and children into Gaza. And so at this point, when you're dealing with a terror organization who is still holding children, let's be clear here, Hamas is still holding 2 children, a 2-year-old baby and a 4-year-old that they've been holding for now 474 days. And whilst they are holding them and not releasing them, that's the type of people you're dealing with. So there is certainly a skepticism about whether or not the ceasefire will hold, because it's not clear that you can trust Hamas to carry out the terms of that ceasefire.
So if we look at, there's enough blame game to go around. So we're talking about Hamas holding those 2 children, totally unacceptable. The killings that happened on October 7, 2023, totally unacceptable. But there has also been deaths on the side of Gaza, which comes to about 46. I know that's 46,000. More of them children, and those numbers have been disputed. But the records are there that children were killed by some of the raids carried out by Israel in chasing Hamas out of Gaza. So my question is actually, why is this so fragile? Is it the fragility? Is it just basically on the side of Hamas, or Israel has a bit of a share of the blame as well? Because they have been killing on both sides. In fact, more killings on one side.
Israel has no interest in being in the Gaza Strip. Remember, we left in 2005, we withdrew all of our soldiers, we withdrew all of the Israelis that were living there, and we did so in order to have a better relationship with the Palestinians in Gaza. Israel does not want to be in Gaza. Israel has no territorial claim to Gaza. We want to have a positive relationship with the Palestinians that are living there. It is Hamas who have utilized Gaza as a terror base, the world's largest terror base, to attack Israel, to send rockets into Israel, to send terrorists across the border, to murder, to rape, to burn children alive, to burn whole families alive, to torture and to kidnap. And it is Israel that has defended itself and done what any country in the world would do, which is to ensure that we have safe borders and we ensure this can never happen again. You know, you talked about the ceasefire. When the ceasefire was announced on Friday, I believe, last week, the head of Hamas went on television and said, we're very, very pleased about the ceasefire. We can now prepare to carry out October the 7th again and again and again. We're very, very proud of what we did. And that's what we're up against. So for Israel's perspective, we want to have a peaceful border. We want to make sure there is a better future for Israelis and a better future for Palestinians. And in order for that to happen, there can't be Hamas in control of the Gaza Strip. It means we need to demilitarize Hamas, and we need to put in place a new leadership, a different leadership that will provide a better future and a better prospect for everybody, and that can't be Hamas.
For the people of Palestine who live in Gaza, who nobody supports terrorism, let's be clear on that. Who see themselves as being protected by Hamas, quote and unquote, as far as this is concerned, and they don't want to feel like they are subservient to Israel. How is Israel ready to walk them through this process? Because at the end of the day, it's peace everyone is trying to achieve. The fragility in the zone affects the rest of the world.
Well, I wouldn't say to you that Hamas there are looking to have any sort of relationship with Israel. And we say that, we want, everybody here wants peace. But let's have a look at what this deal talks about. As I said to you, Israel has demanded the release of our hostages, including 2 children. Hamas, on the other hand, have demanded the release of terrorists. They have demanded the release of people like Arafat Irafia, who is responsible for the murder and rape of Orionsbacher in 2019. They have demanded the release of terrorists who carried out suicide bombings responsible for the death of dozens and dozens of Israelis. It's clear that Israel is asking for children back and Hamas is demanding terrorists back. That's the difference here between the two sides. And yes, the Palestinians in Gaza are suffering. They're also suffering underneath Hamas and underneath the rule of Hamas. You mentioned the numbers of people that have died on the Palestinian side. And firstly, we obviously dispute those numbers. We don't believe those numbers are accurate because they're provided by Hamas, a terror organization. But we have no doubt that there has been collateral damage, that a number of innocents have been killed in this conflict, because in a war, innocents die. There's never been a war in history where innocent people don't die. But the difference is that we're doing everything we can to avoid civilian casualties on the Palestinian side, and Hamas are doing everything they can in order to increase civilian casualties. We have seen that with the hostages that have come back, they told us they were held in civilian apartments. They were held in the humanitarian zone. We know that Hamas fighters have hidden in schools. They have hidden in hospitals. We saw at the beginning of the ceasefire yesterday, Al Jazeera, when they were filming, they showed the Hamas terrorists coming out of the hospitals after the ceasefire. So we've seen how Hamas are using it. We see on your screen at the moment the pictures here of the release of the 3 hostages. Here we have a baying crowd around 3 young women who were being released, and we have hundreds of armed terrorists standing around them, baying for their blood, and it's clear what we're dealing with here. Well, so Israel is interested in having a peaceful relation with our Palestinian neighbors, but that cannot happen when we have Hamas in control there.
And what do you say to those who say, well, maybe Israel is not being fair in this, particularly for that 2-state solution proposal, and they wonder, why would Israel still want to have full security, authority in that sense, instead of at least sharing? And that's also another bone of contention, the 2-state solution. This has been on for decades now. What do you say to those people?
Well, I say to those people that Israel wants a peaceful relationship with the Palestinians. The Palestinians are our neighbors, and we want to have a peaceful relationship with them. We need to have conversations with them about the future. But if you ask me about a 2-state solution, I would ask you, what is that state that you're talking about for the Palestinians? Is that state a state like Gaza? Is that a state that's run by Hamas, that doesn't allow democracy, that doesn't allow people to talk, doesn't allow criticism, and carries out murders and attacks on its own people, as well as launching attacks against Israel? That's clearly not the type of state that anyone would want. That's not good for the Palestinians. It's obviously not good for Israel. It's not good for the region, and it's not good for peace and security. So I think when people throw around these terminology, we need to be very, very clear about what that means. We want peaceful relations with our neighbors. We want a better future. It's in my interest, it's in Israel's interest for us to have peaceful relations and better relations with the Palestinians, who are our neighbors, and we certainly want to work towards that. But in order to do that, and in order to work towards the 2-state solution that you talk about, Hamas can't be part of that. There's no possibility of a 2-state solution. There's no possibility of a better future if Hamas are in power and Hamas are still existing.
So, Ambassador, in your books, do you really believe that there can be such a solution where Hamas will not be involved one way or the other? Because it appears that sometimes this agreement gets to a cul-de-sac where it looks like there's no way forward. So, from where Israel sits, what really is the best solution that will be acceptable to all? I use that word very deliberately, to all.
Well, it's not for me to decide what the solution is for every. That's the conversation that myself and not the Israelis and the Palestinians and the region need to be had. But we've seen in the last number of years that the issue here of the Palestinians is not the key issue. We've seen Israel has had new peace agreements with the United Arab Emirates. We've seen it with Bahrain. We saw it with Morocco. We've seen it with other countries. Israel is having conversations with more and more Arab countries. So we need to separate out the issues. But the reality is that we want to have a better relationship with the Palestinians. But in order to do that, we have to remove Hamas. Hamas themselves say there can never be a state of Israel. Their aim is to destroy the state of Israel. Their aim is to kill every single Jew around the world. They openly state it. It's in their constitution. It's what they believe in. So there's no possibility of a talk of a better future whilst Hamas is there and while Hamas is in control. They need to be removed. You know, Hamas also terrorizes its own people. Over $5 billion of international aid has been pumped into Gaza over the last number of years. And how much of that has gone to the people? Very, very little. The majority has gone to the Hamas leadership. It's lining their own pockets. They have stolen all of that. And the other aid that they didn't steal, they used it to build an underground tunnel network for their terrorists. They used it to build rockets, to build missiles. They used it to train suicide bombers, to train their...
Oh dear. We hope we can get back His Excellency the Ambassador Freeman to continue the conversation. A couple of questions we need to ask. You know, it's a very, very delicate conversation. And as far as the issue of the peace deal is concerned, of course, there's the ceasefire agreement, which is clearly different from the peace deal. Peace deal conversation will come maybe 16 days into the ceasefire agreement, and then we'll now begin. So there are three phases. We have the release of hostages and prisoners in the first phase, and then we talk about the ending of the war as much as possible, where the peace deal conversation begins, especially within the Gaza Strip and the occupied West Bank and the rest of them. Of course, the last phase we understand has to be the reconstruction of Gaza. Is literally a site, you just know the destruction. You've seen this on your screens all over international media. So that reconstruction, we understand, will take billions of naira and many, many years. Just say naira. Billions of dollars, my apologies, and will take many, many years. So that's right. Ambassador, we lost connection with you for a moment, but as we begin to wind down on the conversation around the Gaza Strip and this war, before we move on to Nigeria-Israel relations, the reason I asked that question that you were responding to, on one hand, when you talk about Hamas, I remember Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talking about annihilation, talking about from Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. They also accuse far-right extremists in Israel of also wanting the same thing. So it looks like on both sides, depending on who you are talking to, there are extreme views as far as this is concerned. So if when the conversation starts, perhaps in the second phase that has to do with some level of peace, what will be some of the strong points or the places or the points that Israel is not ready to shift grounds on, that an Hamas or Palestine Authority needs to look at before any peace can be, you know, subjected to any form of scrutiny for the world to move forward from there?
Well, as you said, the second phase of this deal is to be talking about a longer-term ceasefire. It's a longer-term ceasefire in Gaza and moving forward. In order to do that, we need to make sure that whatever authority is in Gaza, whoever is controlling Gaza, is not Hamas and is committed to a positive relationship with Israel and is committed to making sure that the October 7th massacres never take place again. That's our priority. Our priority at this stage is safety and security. It is to allow for our people to go to bed, to sleep in their beds and know that they don't have to worry that Hamas terrorists are going to come across the border and kidnap them. You know, we spoke about these three young women who came home on Sunday, these lionesses, who came back after 470 days in Hamas captivity. Two of them were sleeping in their beds. Dawn and Ellie were in their beds when the terrorists came into their houses and kidnapped them. Romy was at a peace festival when they came in and they kidnapped her whilst they killed her friends. So these are normal people living normal lives like anybody around the world would be doing, and we need to make sure that in the next phase of this discussions that we can ensure that Hamas and other terrorists can never, ever, ever carry that out again. And once we ensure that, and once we can prove that there is indeed a strong border and a calm border and that Israeli citizens are safe, we can begin the process of having the conversation about the future. But there can't be a conversation about the future until we know that Israelis can be safe and Israelis can sleep safely, and that Hamas and the monsters that carried this out will never be able to do it again.
Let's now talk about the relations now, Nigeria-Israel relations. Yes, Israel is fighting that war, but that's not to say you don't have other obligations that you have to fulfill, and I'm talking bilateral relations and the rest. But before that, a lot of people they have this celebrity status that they've given Israel, particularly here in Nigeria, for a number of reasons. They can talk about your military, the weaponry, the Iron Dome, David Sling, intelligence, and all of that. And for a lot of people, it comes from that biblical angle, right? Either the Christians or those who are Bible students or theology students, they just have that love for Israel. And that has brought up that question time and again. The Israel of today, is it the same as the biblical Israel? Some have asked time and again. I'd like you to speak to that, because they ask, the biblical Israel had God choosing their leaders, but the Israel we see today, at least that started from 1948, now has democracy and all of that. So I'd like you to speak to that. Is the Israel of today the same as biblical Israel, Ambassador?
It's a great question. Thank you very much for that question. The reality is this, that Israel is in the same land. We are the same people with the same religion, speaking the same language in our same homeland with our same ancestral homeland. So in that sense, yes, this is the same Israel of the Bible. But Israel today is also a modern state. This is an Israel that is a world leader in agriculture, it's a world leader in technology, it's a world leader in cyber, in health, in education, in so many different areas, in climate change, in digital economy, in the internet, in many, many, many different areas. Israel is one of the world leaders, and in some areas the world leader, water management. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so the answer to your question is yes, we are the same people on the same land, speaking the same language, with the same religion as we were 3,000 years ago, but we are also a modern state and a different state and a democratic state that is dealing with many, many issues around the world and become a world leader in many issues.
So God is no more choosing the leaders. Whatever happened to the 12 tribes? This is a question, and I'm sure you've answered them time and again, but it's worth just putting out there, at least for those who want to know.
So look, we know many thousands of years ago, when the Roman Empire and the Babylonian Empire came and invaded and destroyed, many of the original 12 tribes were dispersed around the world. We still haven't found all of them. There are still some people around the world who believe that they are descended from the 12 tribes. We know that the Ethiopian Jewry is one of those tribes that was spread out, and we brought them back to Israel. Tens and hundreds of thousands of Ethiopians now call Israel their home. They serve in every single aspect of Israeli society. They're full citizens, and they have fulfilled their biblical promise of returning home on the wings of an eagle to their biblical homeland. And so many of the other tribes are still spread around the world, and we don't know where they are or who they are. Maybe one day we'll discover them and we'll be able to bring them back home to Israel.
So, Ambassador, let's talk about some of the bilateral relations between Nigeria and Israel, and maybe we'll talk about trade and security. Nigeria has had its own fair share of its troubles, especially in the northern region when it comes to terrorism. And as my colleague Kayode has said, intelligence is respected that comes from Israel. How far-reaching is that relationship in helping to ensure there is not just exchange of commerce, but also stability in our country especially in the northern part, to ensure that relationship is strengthened as much as possible to decimate some of these terrorist elements that we have here?
As you say, Israel and Nigeria have got a very, very strong bilateral relations. Nigeria is a strong friend of Israel, and we like to share with our friends, and we like to work with our friends. As you also say, unfortunately, Nigeria understands the threats of terrorism and understands the threats of insurgency and kidnapping, as we have also understood that as well. And we share with Nigeria in many different areas. And one of them is obviously in the security realm, but I'm not gonna, you wouldn't expect me to go into details of what that cooperation is. We speak with Nigeria, we work with Nigeria, and we're always willing to share and work with our friends, but for obvious reasons, I'm not gonna go into specific details about what that security cooperation may or may not be.
In other words, a lot of people want to know, is Israel maybe supporting Nigeria and building some sort of Iron Dome or David Sling? You know, these conversations happen. To what extent?
Really? David said, fortunately for Nigeria, David Sling and Iron Dome aren't relevant for Nigeria because you don't have rockets being fired on you on a daily basis. You know, Niger or Chad or Cameroon are not firing rockets into you or firing missiles into your civilian populations. So obviously Iron Dome and David Sling aren't relevant here. But the other areas are anti-terrorism, counter-terrorism, intelligence sharing, all of those sorts of things are areas that are relevant. And again, I'm not going to go into details, but the areas that are relevant, we are more than willing and interested in sharing with friends and having conversations with friends.
We pray it stays that way, really. We need peace everywhere, and particularly in the sub-region. But there's also the conversation around tech and agriculture. We must not lose sight of that. And for a lot of people, it's interesting. They didn't know that there was some sort of collaboration in the area of tech and agriculture. So we have about a minute to wind down. Perhaps you want to speak to that as well.
How do I get in that so much collaboration into 1 minute? We have an iFair program, which is a program which takes young Nigerian innovators and entrepreneurs, and we work with them for a 6-month mentorship program with Israelis and Nigerian experts, and then we help take them to market, we help find them funding and investment, and we have created some very large and impressive companies and created thousands of jobs in Nigeria and huge investment, millions of dollars of investment from outside. We are working on agriculture, on the area fields of rice and on corn and on tomatoes and cucumbers and other areas to be able to grow greater crops in using less water with greater yields. We are working in tech. 45% of Israel's GDP is based on tech and based on human capital, and so we want to share that with Nigeria. So it's a huge conversation. Not enough to speak in a minute. I'm more than happy to come back and have a long conversation with you on agriculture and tech and different areas, how we can work together to really carry on improving the lives of Nigerians and Israelis with shared information and technology.
Particularly when you see the value of a trade, hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is certainly a conversation we would have in the coming days. It's something we need to explore further. But we have to thank you so much for your time. We're speaking with the Ambassador, Embassy of Israel in Nigeria, His Excellency Michael Freeman. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much indeed.
And we have to say that we also reached out to the Palestine authorities, the embassy here in Nigeria. We're told for now there is no ambassador, but as soon as that is put in place, we'll get some sort of response, or at least the other side to this conversation. A very important one. We'll see how the developments unfold in the Middle East. We'll take a moment now on the show, and when we return, we talk about the out-of-school children challenge in Nigeria, and we're paying attention to one of the northern states. Do not miss this. Stay with us.
Our focus on the Subnational today is on Yobe State in northeast Nigeria. We've been joined on the program by the Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Education or Secondary Schools in Yobe State, Associate Professor Abba Idris Adam, joining us via Zoom. Prof, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much, and good morning.
Good morning. The issue of out of school, I think I read somewhere, if the data is not correct, maybe you can just give us the accurate data. About 43% or so, there were specific figures given as to the level or number of out of school children in your business. So let's just put it above 40 or 30% in terms of how many children are not in school. What has been the implication of this particular situation in Yobe State?
One of the major issues that need to be settled first before we go into the matter is that we need to know actually what is the definition of out-of-school child. Out-of-school children sometimes have different meanings, and people are misquoting them sometimes. Out-of-school child is a child that has not enrolled in any formal school, and they're in three different categories. Number one, a child that has never been enrolled at all. Number two, a child that has dropped out of school. He was once in school, but due to some circumstances dropped out of school. And then number three, a child that is attending school irregularly. For example, he will attend today, the next day he will be on the streets. So, however, most of the statistics going around giving the actual number of out of school children in Nigeria are questionable. We are questioning the reliability and authenticity of those figures. For example, the Tribune newspaper, and this is the most circulated figures, place, for example, Kebbi as number one with 67%, Sokoto as number two with 66%, and Yobe number three with 62%. However, if you go through the actual figure, you find that the Tribune newspaper is quoting the cable index. And the cable index got these statistics from the Nigeria Multidimensional Poverty Index. The question here is that the source of this figure is the Nigeria Multidimensional Poverty Index. The question is, how is it possible for an agency that is responsible for assessing the poverty rate in Nigeria to have access to education to the extent of giving exact figure of out-of-school children? So this is actually very questionable. The second figure given is that of the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, which placed the out-of-school children in Yobe at 43%. That is 427,230 children are out of school. Okay, if you take this number, according to Yobe State Technical Committee on Almajiri Reform, there are at least 3,000 Almajiri schools in Yobe State with over 180,000 students. So if you are to remove 180,000 Almajiri students, because we made a clear distinction between a child that is enrolled in school and the child that is not enrolled. So out of school child is the child that has never been enrolled in any form of school. Almajiri schools are schools that are having their students, but the difference is that that form of education has not been formally recognized by the National Policy on Education. However, they are in school, they are not out of school children. So if you are to remove 180,000 from the 427,230 given by the Nigeria's National Bureau of Statistics, you have at least 247,230, and this is representing 24%. And this percentage that we are talking about, we are not talking about the percentage of the entire population. No, this is the percentage of children of school age, that is between 5 to 16 years. So actually, these are some of the contradictions we are facing.
All right, so, Prof, so you give us what the government has. You've disputed literally as many numbers and dichotomized them. You even mentioned loss in transition students. That's what you mean by people perhaps who couldn't further their education for whatever reason, maybe financial or insurgency, or some of the reasons alluded to that. So what exactly is government putting out or having as data for out of school children in Yobe State? So we can work with your figures at least for a moment.
Let me give you another example before quoting the actual figure of out of school children in Yobe State. According to the Maternal, Newborn and Child Health Program, this is a UK-based organization that is working in Nigeria. They said that 48% of the total population of Yobe State is between the age of 15 and below. And this 48% is about 1,751,000. So if you are to take this and then remove or subtract the number given by the National Bureau of Statistics, you have at least a total enrollment of about 1,370,000 students that are formally enrolled in school. And those that are out of school are actually 247,230. And this is what we have even in our annual school census report of the 2024. So the formal number adopted by the state government based on the annual school census conducted by the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education in Yobe State, the actual number stands at 247,230, which is representing 24% of the total school-age children in the state.
So in essence, are you saying that there is no need to raise the alarm or declare some sort of emergency for education, particularly with these out-of-school children figures which you now quote?
Actually, the state is under the state of emergency. His Excellency Honorable Maimala Buni declared state of emergency on the 29th May 2019, the day he was sworn in as the governor. So working on this, you know, Yobe State has suffered quite a long time during the Boko Haram insurgency, and most of the students that are categorized as out-of-school children are actually school dropouts, because when there is attack in a particular town, you know, most of these bandits, most of these insurgents attack school facilities. When they attack schools, they kill students, they kill teachers. The rest of them will now run and migrate, leaving their own hometown. And when they leave their own hometown and migrate to a different place, before they are able to settle down, they will be going to actually internally displaced persons camp. And those are also categorized as out-of-school children, but actually they were school dropout students. And another point is that working on this number, I know probably from 2019 to date, the number has drastically dropped. It was previously over about 427,000, as I said. But now, when you subtract this, you realize that from the time state of emergency was declared in the state to this year, to the last year, 2024, you realize that there is a significant improvement in taking these children back to school. Some of them, we are building schools for them, and some of them, we are constituting or establishing a non-formal schools for them. For example, most of them suffered from the poverty as a result of they lost their businesses, they lost their hometown, so they have to work in order to earn a living. What we are doing, by the time they go and work in the morning, in the afternoon, we take the school to them. We make the schools hours to be flexible in such a way that most of them will have access to quality education. And as of last year, over 1,700 of those children have been formally enrolled into junior secondary school after giving them what we call accelerated basic education program.
The point of this conversation is for years now we've grappled with the challenge of insecurity, and it's been said that when these children are found idle on the streets, it's easy to recruit them, radicalize them, and use them for attacks. And some have said that's one of the reasons that you have banditry, terrorism still existing, sometimes thriving in communities in northern part of the country. But I want to know, for you, or at least for your state government, do you consider Almajiri as out of school? The ones on the streets now as out of school children as well, but they're meant to be in Almajiri system.
Almajiris are not out of school children. They are children in a school not recognized by the National Policy on Education. That is why at the beginning of the conversation, I said we need to identify who is out of school child. An out of school child is a child that has never been enrolled in any form of school. So this, for historical purposes, do you know that these Almajiri schools were the public schools during the Sokoto Caliphate? Those are the government schools. And that is why most of these traditional schools are maintained. And that is why you realize that there is a pressure from the Almajiri schools for them to be formally recognized. Because by recognizing them formally, we will have the access of at least reviewing the curriculum of the school, injecting some of the modern subjects like English, mathematics, or at least injecting some skills that will be acquired.
Commissioner, pardon me to just clarify, just reiterate what I said. we know the Almajiri system, but I'm talking about the ones on the street, and they'll tell you that they actually belong to an Almajiri school in that sense, but they are on the streets either begging or just trying to get something to feed, because perhaps the person in charge of that their Almajiri school is not able to fend for them. They're not getting donations and all of that. So he just says, well, it's a no-brainer. Go out there, see what you can get for yourself. Those are the ones I am referring to. Those ones are on the street begging, but they belong to the Almajiri system.
The ones you see on the street are divided into two. Some of them are actually out-of-school children, but they use the name of Almajiri because in northern Nigeria, Almajiri has a special respect because it's a person who's dedicated his time in studying the Quran. While the second part of those that are moving on the street are those Almajiris, the actual Almajiris. After study hours in the morning, from morning to afternoon, then they will now go and look for a living. That is why His Excellency Honorable Malabuni has brought initiatives in feeding the Almajiri schools so that we will stop them from roaming the street and begging. However, when you have this problem that is a century-old problem, it cannot be solved within this short period of time, but we believe as time goes on, it will be reduced drastically.
So I'm thinking again in terms of trying to improve the Almajiri system, because I see that you're making a very strong case for the Almajiri system. I remember on the 60th birthday of the NNPC or GCAO, he did mention that it's a product of Almajiri system of education. Do you think, Prof, that one of the best ways to start off before it's captured in our education policy is for the state themselves to begin to integrate some of these subjects that will make them have a wider view of the world so that they could be more relevant beyond the religious end?
Yes, you're right. But the challenges we are facing, these Almajiri schools are so traditional in maintaining their method. Whenever sometimes you try to talk to them, bring them closer, show them the importance of adding some subjects into the school, some of them believe that you are here to hijack the school. You are here to distort the image of the school. So it is something that has to be done gradually by involving the actual heads of the school, calling them. That is why last year, for example, we have 2 conferences with them. We have several workshops for them. The importance of that is for us to inform them of the need of improving the curriculum of the school. You cannot live in the 21st century with the curriculum of the 19th or 18th century, for example. And most of them are responding to the call of the state government. That is why we have a special budget for all those that have responded. We are building, for example, hostels for them. We are building temporary sheds for them. And this, plus, in addition to the feeding program that is given to them, we hope as time goes, most of them will now respond to this so that the entire Almajiri system will now be reformed. Most of the state governments have these initiatives, particularly Yobe states.
So let's now be clear. So we know the kind of intervention that the states are asking for. Sometimes people just imagine they know the solutions to problems, but you stayed there. At least the people know what they want and what will work for them. So it's important to diagnose from that end. So what is the proposal now? Are you saying, for us, what we want to have is the Almajiri system, because historically, culturally, religious-wise, it's what works for us, and that's, maybe for you, has been proven. So let's do the Almajiri. If you are in the South, you can do what they call Western education. Let us upgrade our own Almajiri and make it what we want it to be. Is that what you're proposing? Is that the kind of fix that I think will work?
What I'm proposing is that we are working on improving the system, because Almajiri school is a school that is teaching purely the Quran, how to read and write and how to commit the entire Quran into memory. What we believe is important is for us also to inject a modern subject into the school, so that besides memorizing the Holy Quran, besides committing the Holy Quran to memory, you also have a modern knowledge on how to interact with people. For example, a simple mathematics, a basic mathematics, a simple communication in English, some skills that will be added into the school. A child, while studying in Almajiri school, is also learning a particular skill. For example, carpentry, welding, or anything of that nature, so that instead of them after the school to go to the street and start begging, they will now, after the school, they will now go back to their workshop and start working, so that they can earn a living diligently without roaming the street and begging. This is number one. Number two is that some of the schools, in fact, we now have a modern Al-Majri school. We call them Islamia schools. These Islamia schools have integrated Western and Islamic education all together. That is why you find a child memorizing the Holy Quran, and also after graduation they have the access of studying medicine, engineering, public administration, and all these courses that are available in Nigeria. We are showing to these Nigeria schools that this is the model of school that we want Al-Majri school to turn into. However, the effort to resist is there, the pressure to resist is very much, and we are working our best to make sure that we reduce the number and then improve the curriculum and make sure that the curriculum is updated.
Well, there's another part of the conversation I would like you to speak extensively to. You mentioned it in passing, but I want us to stay there for a moment so that we understand the extent of what we're dealing with here. Insurgency, terrorism has actually affected the state of education in that part of the region. To what extent has it affected Yobe State? I'm talking about level of destruction in terms of infrastructure. We've gone around the issue of how many people are in school and all of that.
You know, from 2019, from 2009 to 2019, it was estimated that at least half of the educational facilities in Yobe State were destroyed by the insurgents. That is why, as I said earlier, most of the students that are counted as out of school are actually school dropouts. But the governments of Yobe State, from the time of His Excellency Alhaji Ibrahim Gaidam up to the time of His Excellency Honorable Mala Buni, they have been working day and night. Whenever a school or school facility is destroyed, they rebuild it. Whenever people migrated and left their hometown, a school will be located where they migrated to. So most of the facilities have now been revamped and they have been renovated. Most of the first problem now we are facing is we have the teaching and learning materials. We have most of the construction is going on in many schools. The major problem is that some of the communities that have left their hometown, trying to take them back, most of them are resisting to go back. So if they cannot go back, we have no option but to construct a school where they are now camping. And this is some of the challenges we are facing in the education sector.
So we want to show you something, Commissioner. A lot of people are interested in this conversation, and one of our viewers says that he attended this school, Bendingeri Primary School in Damaturu, Yobe State, that's the capital, Damaturu, sent images of what is said to be the state of that school, without chairs, the students sitting on the floor, the pupils in this case. I would like you to just look at this. Can you confirm this? Is this something you're aware of? We, of course, blurred the faces of the children because they're minors, but you can see sitting on the floor. Is that something you're aware of, Commissioner?
Yes, you know, in Yobe State, I will give you one example. In Yobe State, most of the public schools, private schools are using public schools after working hours. So I don't want to be sure whether this is actually a government school or a private school that is operating in government schools. Most of the government schools, after working hours, they park the chairs, and then the private schools that are operating in the afternoon, from afternoon to evening, they come and occupy the classes. However, I don't want to say that we don't have such cases, but what I'm trying to say is that if a state can suffer from insurgency for a very long period of time, and then the only example they can produce as students sitting on the floor is just some one or two, I think it's a great achievement, because no government can solve the entire problem of education. What is important is that, yes, go ahead.
There are two issues here. The first issue has to do with the fact that the children are sitting on the floor, which we are trying to ask you to confirm. The second part is that this is in Damaturu, the Yobe State capital. The reason that is important is if this is happening in Damaturu, what happens in the other rural areas? It could be worse. So I wanted you to speak to that contextually.
Number one, I said I cannot verify this because probably we have, as I said, I cannot independently verify this picture. Number two, I said most of the private schools in our state capital and many local governments, private schools are operating in the afternoon after working hours. So I cannot confirm whether this is actually from a public school or from the private school operating in the public school after closing hours. The reason why we are allowing private school to operate in public buildings is to make sure that they also contribute their quota in reducing the number of out-of-school children. But independently, I cannot verify this. But what I say, let's assume that it is true. I think it is something that needs to be. Yes, go ahead.
Pardon me, we absolutely get that point. You're saying the glass is half full, not half empty. But are you promising us that right after this interview, you're going to intervene, check out that school, and fix whatever it is untoward about that?
Sure.
Are you giving that promise, and you will come back to us?
I am giving that. Immediately, I will send my people to go and verify, and then immediate action will be taken.
Well, that's cheery to hear. So we'll wait for the feedback on that one, because I mean, education is very important, and from the passion with which you speak, we expect that it is evident in what we see. But I think we can anchor at this point, Jeffrey.
I want to thank you so much, Associate Professor Abba Idris Adam, Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Schools in Yobe State. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we have more for you right here on the program. Join us again.
We're turning our attention to the beautiful world of the arts. I mean, don't you just love arts? Well, maybe even if you don't have the money, you can experience arts in different ways, right? And this morning, we're speaking to someone whose work is increasingly showing just a beauty in arts, particularly for Africa. We have joining us Sylvester Aguddah, a collage and mixed media artist, joins us live from Canada. You can even see his outfit. The background is artistic. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
I imagine it's midnight there, or at least past midnight there. So thank you for staying up. It's all for the love of arts, right? But first, I mean, looking at your work, you've participated in over 50 exhibitions, 45 solo exhibitions. Your passion is obvious. You've, collected, or your work has been collected across Africa, Europe, America, Asia. Speak to us about how rewarding this has been for you. When you look back at the effort you put in, the time, what would you describe art as for you in terms of the reward? And I'm not talking just money.
Thank you very much. Truly, if you put money before passion, you'll miss everything. And for me, it has always been the passion. And, I would say this is one of the most fulfilling parts of my lifetime. I've been in the corporate world for 18 years, and the people I've met as an artist in just 8 years of being in the art space formally, it's incredible. I've been privileged to meet heads of states, presidents of nations. It's amazing. I feel very fulfilled doing something that I just love doing. It's just fun for me. And I'm really happy that God has brought me this far. I'm a graduate of business administration. I studied business administration and I specialized in marketing. But here I am today as a full-time artist, and my art is taking me around the world. It's very, very fulfilling, I must say.
So, in other words, if you had to place arts and your corporate experience, naturally you've chosen arts, but you're saying that even arts is much more rewarding than that. Am I correct?
Yes. So it's a gradual process. I wouldn't say money first.
Definitely.
I would say fulfillment. Yes. So right now, art has opened doors for me. Places I didn't know I could go to. My art has just showed. People see my art and they invite me. I was recently invited by one of the mayors here in Canada because she came across my works, and that alone just makes me very happy. And now I'm trying to empower people. But my greatest joy is the fact that I'm able to tell the story of Africa with what I do. So I don't know how to put it, but it's just amazing. And for me, what makes it stand out is that because I don't have any formal training in art. People say, "Oh, you are self-taught," but I call myself the God-taught artist because God opens my eyes to a lot of things. I get a lot of inspiration, and the kind of things I do. People at the first sight see my works as paintings, but they are not paintings. They are actually made from different pieces of materials: paper, fabric, recycled materials, rubber, and plastic. So when I put these things together and they turn out this way, it's unexplainable. It's just incredible. I feel really, really happy about what I do.
I can see how vibrant the colors are. The vibrancy of the color is just something you cannot just walk away. It just drags you in. Let's go back to that self-taught element of you. When did you start drawing? When did you see this? And how did your parents help you out in shaping the arts in you, if I use that word, before you forayed into the corporate world and found yourself back into what you originally should be doing?
Yeah, so when I started drawing right from when I was a child, and at my teenage age, I was drawing all the time. My dad wasn't really happy about it. And when it was time for me to go to the university, like, what course are you going to choose? Don't tell me you're going to do fine art, because I'm not going to allow you to do that. Go and study accounting, because he's an accountant. You either do accounting, business, or law. So, well, you know how it is. I had to take the instruction, and I took business administration as a course. But the art thing has always been there, So I found myself drawing, making cards, birthday cards and all that, and in school to make money for myself, because the money my parents were giving me was not enough to cover the cost of living. So I was doing these handmade cards, and that was fetching me some money. By the time I had finished school, I was able to build a 3-bedroom from selling cards in school. So that already was a sign that there was a potential there. Well, after school, I just decided to chase my full-time career as a salesman, and I worked with the FMCG. I worked with Telecom, and but there was just something inside me that was missing. And until 2016, when I decided to chase my passion, which is art, and in just 2 years, by 2018, I was already on TV. I was on DSTV. I was on Channels Arts House. It was incredible the kind of exposure I got within that time. And then I started getting invitations from countries, from leaders of nations, and I didn't have so much money, but I was going to places at all expense paid. It was just incredible. Here I am today in Canada, and already I'm so booked for the month. But it's rewarding, seriously, I must say.
Yeah, Mr. Aguddah, when you said you built a 3-bedroom with selling cards, at what age? We just looked at ourselves, okay, and not in this Tinubu's government anyway, because the dollar is not smiling. Maybe tell us that part of the story, because
that was back in 99. So I was in school, and the whole money my parents give me for the term, finishes like in 2 weeks, or maybe in max a month. But the more I made those cards, I was saving money, and I started saying, okay, if you're going to leave school in another 3 years, and you're living with your parents, you will need some space. Yeah, because we had like a 3-bedroom, and I wanted my own space, and we had some space in the compound. So I just told myself, you know what? Whatever amount of money I make from this card, I'm going to put some aside. And I was able to do that, with discipline. By the time I finished school, I had finished building a 3-bedroom, and I told my dad, I said, Dad, you see, you didn't want me to do art, but I went to business school, and right there in business school, I started making cards. And I had a competitor, a lady in business school, who was challenging me. So I was always trying to be one step ahead. But the good news is that I've married that woman today, that artist who was competing with me in business school. She's now my wife. So I married my competition. And she's been great inspiration for me. She's one of the people that have been my backbone in my arts journey so far.
That's such a beautiful love story. I can tell you this, I'm sure there are a lot of viewers that just melted listening to that. And I can imagine that influence, not just in the relationship side, but even in what you do, right? And it's great to hear. I also imagine someone is listening to you and is thinking, that is me. Okay, I'm working in the bank right now, but I know that I shouldn't be here. I should be doing some other things. So I want you to speak to how to properly transition, if there's anything like that, and what to look out for so you don't make that decision and you regret and then you are back and you look like you don't know what you're doing. So how were you able to transition?
So I tell people, because of the environment in which we find ourselves, you have to have something that brings in some daily income. And so I'll not tell you to just leave your job and just jump into your passion, but I feel it's something you can try to. When you love something, you make time for it. So whatever skills, we have people who are talented, good musicians, good writers, good authors, good producers, and they just find themselves stuck in the corporate world. Why don't you just start trying? And you know, the beautiful part of today's world is that the social media is there to help you. There's TikTok, there's Instagram. People are creating content and they are doing greatly. So if you can hijack those opportunities and start putting yourself out there, you never know. There is somebody looking for you. You just need one person to just change your life, and that's it. So if you don't put yourself out there now, then you know it will be a challenge. But like I said, you know, gradually you transit gradually. It's not something you just do all of a sudden. You know, I had some support from my wife because while I wasn't working and I was doing the art, she was still working, and art is expensive, the materials and everything. So I needed funding. My first capital was given to me by my wife. So I just encourage people to try as much as possible to see how they can create a fusion between the two, and then gradually focus on the passion. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Aguddah, a lot of family stories you can extract from what you're telling us. I hope you're paying royalties to your wife, by the way, just...
she's paying him royalties because I'm sure it comes to her.
We're all for her on this particular one. Justice for her. Let's talk about
That's why my art is mostly about women empowerment, mental health. Depression is real. You know, I use vibrant colors just to, create some excitement and keep people positive. You know, I tell African stories. I'm proud to be African any day, anytime. And we have a rich culture. We have lots of stories to tell. And I'm one ambassador that would always want to push our story out there, especially for Nigeria.
We're happy and excited with the stories you're telling, but walk us through your thought process in terms of how you create, you know, just if you can help us visualize it for a moment before we begin to wind down.
Okay, so I'm driven by the things I see, the people the people that are encountered, the places I've gone to. You know, I was brought up in the north in Kano, and then I schooled in Zaria, and then I worked in Jos, and so I travel West Africa. I drive myself along the West Coast. I meet people, the culture, and everything. I love nature. I'm always by the beach, and I like to go hiking. I like riding. And so these are things that inspire me. I go on my phones, I take pictures, and I come back and I analyze those pictures and I put them into existence. And it's fun when I play with these materials, paper, fabric. You know, it's incredible what you can do with these things that you find around you. You know, recently I got some washed away wood by the beach and I transformed it into an artwork, and somebody paid me some good money for it. So it's like playing football and being paid for it, doing something that you're passionate about and getting rewarded. But like I said, don't put money before your passion.
I must say, it's even beyond the material, it's the effect. Because looking at some of your work, you just feel that sense of vibrance. For some, it's healing. For some, it's encouragement. So people derive different. It's just like medicine, right? It's you know, it does something in the body. So sometimes you can't even put a cost or a value to it. I want to play a quick game with you. We've been displaying some of your works. I don't know if you name them, but we're going to display them, and then you just say something. What you see about that work, you just say it once you see it, and maybe tell us how long it took you to come up with them. So we're going to go to those shots yet again of your work. I'll play that quick game. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you.
All right. So let's go. Let's see those images yet again. Okay. I think a lot of people are enjoying your pictures behind the scenes. So let's see. All right, let's go.
This was inspired by the Festac mask. And this one, I call them the Proud Sisters. They are families where they have all girls, and they're very competitive among themselves. And this one just goes to the Gilly, our Nigerian Gilly. You know, our women proud, you know, confident. This is emotions. People have different thoughts: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Good people, wicked people, all sorts. You know. And for me, I think these are sisters. You know, this reminds me of this is an abstract I did. I was actually excited about it. This is a woman being defended by her husband. She has that confidence that she has a man in her life that can support her and empower her. This is an African woman. I grew up in the north, and the houses like Lele, and they do this Indian dot thing when they dress. So that I mixed up with a little bit of South African woman and then an Indian woman. Yeah, in the mix.
So that was a blitz of sorts. I hope that wasn't too hard for you. But what about this one?
This is the Ayo. You know, the Ayo, it's symbolic. They have hierarchies. This is a festival in Lagos where you have this. It's a royalty program festival where you have the Ayo. They call them the Ayo. They come out to dance, and the colors on their cap indicates their hierarchy. Then this is a hunter.
This is the last one.
Yeah, this is from the southwest. A hunter. You can see the depths of the precision in his eyes. You know, he looks like he's looking dull, but he's actually meditating on how he's going to. Because if he doesn't hunt and get food, his family is not going to eat.
There you go. That is beautiful, really. Thank you for walking us through the brilliant work you do. I think I enjoyed this. We maybe enjoyed this too much. We have to thank you so much for your time, and thank your wife as well for the collaboration and the great work. We've been speaking with collage and mixed art media artist Sylvester Aguddah. Join us live from Canada. Wish you the very best and see you soon, Michael.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Well, we'll take a moment now on the show, and for those who are looking forward to see Jeffrey on the drums, we have Emmadrumz joining us. He has played with Wizkid, all the big artists, and he's brought his craft right here to our Lagos studio. So stay with us right here. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen,
Emmanuel, David, Emmadrumz. Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
come on. How you doing, man?
Oh boy, we're like, our ears were, oh Lord, help. But that was beautiful.
Oh, thank you, bro.
Beautiful. How long have you been playing this? Hey, stop by your drum.
Okay.
Stand by your face. So,
been playing
so before we get to how long you've been playing, so a lot of people call different things, these different things. Some call it conga. What exactly is it?
Okay, this is the bongo drums. The bongo drums. It's like a Latino percussion drums. Yeah, so it's what we use to add spice to the Afro beats, Amapiano beats in parties and all of that kind of stuff.
Is this what you play exclusively, or you play any kind of
percussion?
Oh, just bring it.
Just bring it.
Smash it.
I'll give you a show, a proper show. Trust me.
Wow. We're just blown away by what you are doing. So
amazing.
Literally amazed by some of the things. So walk us through how you got here.
Okay.
We always like to tell that story.
Yeah, okay. So I started as a drummer in church. Yeah, of course,
you're the
church. Church boys, doing what we like to do in church. I was born in Assemblies of God Church, so that's where I started to drum, and we started to do this thing where we just take turns to do drums. But then in our church, in children's church, we had plenty of drummers.
Like there was a competition.
There was mad competition. Sure, I'll be like say the fifth or the sixth in the row. Yeah, so we started to take outside gigs, go to neighboring churches, get paid to do your thing and all of that. But then when I got into school, I think so, when I got into school, the pocket money or whatever they were sending to us was not really that much.
Right.
So we needed to do some sort of business music to be able to cope in school. And then from then I went to service. It was when I went to service, I was playing with this live band. And then one of those days while I was playing with live band, one DJ Funky, that's my boss, DJ Funky was like, you can do this in the club. You can do this, we can take this to the club. And then that same night, I took it to the club and everybody was blown away. And
with the bongo,
with the proper drums first, the proper drums first in the club, and then everybody was blown away. And then I started to say, okay, what can we do? Like, what can I add to this drums thing? And then that was, I found this, I searched this on the internet, I saw this, I brought, nobody was doing it in Nigeria. I was the first person to bring this bongos to the country. The first person to import it, I imported it, and then I started doing it. Then in Enugu, one of those clubs, and then from there, boom.
I imagine someone would dispute that and say, no, Imam, I brought it first. Right?
But
I've seen the way you've now infused this into not just club, but live performance. One of your videos with Wizkid was making the rounds recently. So first, how long ago did you start? Because that's where Jeffrey started from. How long ago did you start?
I started drumming while I was a kid. I can't remember how long, but I started doing these bongos from like 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
And walk us through your success journey, because a lot of people now look up to you and say, that is your guy.
I'll be number one now.
You're number one. I love that confidence. So walk us through your success stories, the people you have worked with in this industry, and how challenging it has been.
Okay. I've worked with a couple of guys in the industry. I've worked with all the big shots. DJs, any big DJ you can think of, likes of Big N, Tunes, OB, any big DJ you can think, Consequence, Crowd Control. I worked with all of them. And I was able to create value for them. Because for me, it's about what am I going to do to this party? What am I going to bring to this table, like this entertainment scene? What am I bringing that we cannot do without?
Right.
You feel me? What am I doing that we cannot do without? So I started like, okay, come into parties, you DJ, look me this beat, DJ, give me this sound. You give me the sound, I try to put something on it, and then people are like, wow, we want this more, we want this more, we want this more. And that was it, basically.
Amazing. I know how much people now love this. In fact, some
everywhere.
They wouldn't dance until this comes on the scene.
If you come to a proper party, nobody will.
So is there a spirit in this particular what exactly is this about that once it comes up, you just want to dance and spray your money? We'll talk about the money bit, but what is it about this?
It's actually the vibe of the party right now. It's the vibe. There is no party, there is no proper party happening in Lagos without the drums. Trust me. People know. They see me in big stages, they see me in big shows. They know that if there's no drum, people are pressing their phone. But the moment I come up the stage, sometimes we'll be backstage, like artists are saying, how do I go? Who is going to go first, And then the crowd, is kind of low in spirit. I'm like, bro, I'm going on the stage with the drums, and don't worry, I'll lift up their spirit. Once I come to that stage and knock, boom, everywhere.
It's quite interesting to see that it has a symbol and all of that. And I learned how to play the drum, but I don't know that I remember anything. Okay. We drum from here, but you twisted it. You turned it the other way around.
Turned it the other way.
So maybe you walk us through how this is for learners.
For learners.
I know you're going to teach us. We're going to have a shot at this on the show as well.
For learners.
Okay.
101 on this. Where do you start from?
For learners, you start the rudiments. You get to know the parts of the bongos. I don't know where to start from.
There are parts of the bongos.
Yeah, this is the rim, this is the skin, this is the
and everything
head.
is usable.
Everything is usable. You tap this, you get a different sound. You tap this, you get a different sound. You tap this, you get a different sound. So
just on this tiny.
just on this stuff, man.
Because for the ones that have a bigger area,
Bigger surface area.
it's basically the same. So you have to learn that they're different parts.
Yeah, different parts you come. I mean, I have an academy running through that you can come through for.
Beautiful.
So this is on-air academy. So give us a 30 seconds tutorial. So,
Tutorial.
yes, let's see. Let's see what me and Kayode can do as quickly as we can. So
You do. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you do that?
I don't know.
Jeffrey, go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
I mean, Jeffrey, you should do this, bro.
No, maybe.
One.
It's doing great. Wait, maybe Ima should try it again. We should try. So give us the play it again. Let's get it. Okay, let's try that. Don't judge me. How did I do? So we're going for that show together.
We're going for the show together tomorrow.
MCR says I should put the adjuster, so let's try.
I like that roll. Good job.
So we're going for that show together. But speak to us about how lucrative this is.
Okay, how lucrative it is.
Please.
So, so I feel like entertainment and business are two different things entirely.
Say that again.
Yeah, entertainment and business are two different things. You have to know the art of business in this entertainment thing. Could be something you love to do, like a hobby or something, but if you do not have the business acumen, and that's why they say education is not scam. If you're not able to tell yourself, okay, this is how I want this thing to go. Of course, there's a time where you're trying, people do not know, you did not know what you bring into this stuff, but the moment you're able to showcase what you can do, after that time, I mean, put your charge, add VAT to it, bro.
Okay.
You know,
I like that part. So we'll let you go without doing something for us. So one more. 1 minute. You just have 1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute. Let's see what you can do.
Well, we have more than 1 minute due to popular demand. But
Okay.
but do your thing.
Do your
We
thing.
need to
For
grow.
me, middle.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Emmadrumz.
David Emmanuel Emmadrumz. Let's see. You good?
Let's go.
Now you're showing off. Now you're showing
Good
off.
job.
You're a big show off, man.
David
Amazing.
Emmanuel Emmadrumz, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good job you're doing, and keep the VAT coming.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you.
And we're glad you're training other people. So just in case you want to learn to do this, hit this man up, and we can create a value
I'm just
chain.
gonna say it one more time.
Absolutely.
So you have this party. I mean, it's like the proper drums party where people come to see the drum stuff. The next one I do like say quarterly every year, 4 times in a year. So Next one is coming up on the 8th of March in VI, Mantra Lounge.
Drums.
Just drums.
Fantastic work.
Just drums.
Fantastic work.
Good job.
Looking forward to seeing
No problem.
two of you.
I'll do better next time.
Jeffrey will play.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, just before we go, let's take a look at some of the things people are saying. If we have the time, that's if our producer allows us to do this. Let's see.
Oh yeah, let's go through some of the trends making the rounds, and it's quite a number of them. But we're going to start off with this particular picture of the current governor of Rivers State and the former governor of Rivers State, now FCT minister.
They were standing between the president was in between both of them, right?
He was a peacemaker of sorts, and you see the smile on their faces. And we tell people time and again, particularly people who go all out for politicians and then hurt others, or even go to the extent of harming others or killing people. I mean, look at the smiles on their faces there.
So Wike is smiling, Fubara is smiling, both are smiling, the president is smiling.
Are you smiling?
Senator Magnus Abe is somewhere behind them, and I can see a couple of other people. Okay, let's see what you're saying. Abdurrashid says, help this will mark the end of political uprising in Rivers State. Fubara must learn to respect agreement, because agreement is agreement irrespective of the clause involved.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next one. Temi Tokwe. By the way, what is this agreement that we're talking
We don't know.
about?
We don't know.
So what agreement are you fighting for? But Temi Tokwe is next, saying conflict resolution is one of the skills and great leadership possess. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu scores 98% in this. Okay. It seems like we have in all in him. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, but what criteria did you use to score the president 98%? Why not 100 anyway? Why 98? Why not 50?
I think the next person, the grades. The meeting was based on Ogoni cleanup, not Fubara and Wike's rift. It is not a political resolution.
There you have it.
So that's clarity now.
Yeah, that's what they said after the meeting, so it's important to put it in some context. But whatever the case, this next user, Kone, says Tinubu is leading from the front. This is commendable.
Okay. I think we have, do we have maybe one more before we go? The video of Lasma now being a notorious one-chance syndicate identified as Toyib Ogunjobi, making 300,000 naira daily on illegal business. Okay, let's see what you're saying. Didi, you said, kudos to Lasma for their swift action. This is a reminder for always be vigilant, especially on public transport. Let's hope this leads to more arrests and safer streets for everyone in Lagos. 300,000 a day.
300,000. I know people are asking.
Wow.
Lasma, police. Thought it was going to be the police thing. But this user, Sam Adebola, says is determined not to face the consequences soon, voluntarily naming every other member of his syndicate without being promoted. So the video, if you've seen that video, there was a lot of talk in that video.
It wasn't being prompted at all. Junior Patrick says, does Lasma have jurisdiction? Yes, he's a criminal. Hand him over to the relevant authorities. Well, they've caught him.
Simple as that. Even you as a citizen,
you can arrest.
You can arrest and hand over.
But be sure it's safe for you to arrest.
And also, no jungle justice. But we have to take this video of a Nigerian, Jeffrey, in the UK, who, get this, says he wants to replace items that Kemi
I saw that video.
were stolen from her in Nigeria.
So
and personally delivered shoes
and a wristwatch. Our brother's shoe and wristwatch was stolen in Nigeria. So the guy say,
so he went to buy a wristwatch.
Yeah, he bought a wristwatch and the shoes. Since that is the problem, that you will not keep us out of your statements and speeches and your mouth, let's return the wristwatch and the shoe. Okay. So he actually went to the House of Commons
to deliver it to
and deliver it to the security. Say, please give it to Kemi Baidnov. That shoe and the wristwatch they stole. This.
Come on.
I would always like to be a Nigerian.
Blink Lagosian.
I would always like to be a Nigerian.
He's just chasing clouds. Would you return to others who are also a victim of events like this? But take a look at what Blink Lagosian said quickly. It says Nigeria and Nigerians are goated. Now, in case you're wondering what does goated mean, it doesn't mean the goat. It means greatest of all time, right? If you're not a Nigerian, you don't know what you're missing except... Okay, so these are some of the issues again that come up in conversations like this, and we should always watch what we say. You can make your statements without targeting people from certain areas, so this is unacceptable. Certainly, you can lump people up and just denigrate them, but we get the point you're making in the first part. But the other part, no. settling.
All right, so absolutely. So that's a much we can take. Well, you said a lot of things as far as that video is concerned, but hey, I always like to be a Nigerian. That's why they flocked Nigeria this December for Dirty December, because everybody's curious. These people, with all their hardship and difficulty, they just have vibe.
We'll see what happens.
We're good. We're good like that. All right, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And I'm Kaido Kikiolu. Sunrise Daily is next. Goodbye.